Imagine being alone at home, feeling the security of a locked door, only to realize that someone's been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Ordinary encounters turn deadly, and everyday places become scenes of terror. In today's episode, we're uncovering the haunting, true tales of 5 serial killers whose terrifying actions shattered lives and left deep scars on communities. Hi everyone, welcome back to Dreadful Nights. Today we're diving into real-life tales of serial killers whose twisted minds brought unimaginable fear. These aren't just stories. They're real-life horrors that serve as reminders of the darkness lurking in our world. Let's jump in. Story 1. The Midnight Caller. In the summer of 1979, I moved to Houston, Texas, eager for a fresh start. The city was alive with energy, but beneath that vibrant surface, a chilling rumor circulated about a figure known as the Midnight Caller. I dismissed the tales as urban legends, convincing myself I was safe in my new apartment. One sultry night, after a long day of unpacking, I fell asleep with my sliding glass door unlocked. Around 2 a.m., a scratching noise jolted me awake, like someone trying to pry the door open. Panic surged through me as I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure outside. Instinct kicked in, and I fumbled for the phone, whispering to the 911 operator, "Someone's trying to break into my home." For a moment, I felt we made eye contact, his dark, hollow gaze chilling me to the bone. As the operator assured me help was on the way, the figure suddenly backed away, disappearing into the night. When the police arrived, one officer reassured me, "You did the right thing by calling us. You were lucky he didn't get in." He revealed that many had encountered the Midnight Caller. Standing there, still trembling, I felt vulnerable. The officers searched the area but found no trace of the intruder. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Despite my fear, I tried to maintain my routine. I kept the sliding door locked and checked my windows each night before bed. Yet the Midnight Caller haunted my thoughts, turning simple moments into potential terrors. A few weeks later, I received a frantic call from a friend nearby. She had encountered the Midnight Caller just nights before, catching a glimpse of him outside her bedroom window. Their eyes met for a moment, and she was frozen in fear. Thankfully, she managed to call the police, but he vanished before they arrived. That night, I lay awake, listening to the sounds of the city. Every creak felt like footsteps, every gust of wind a warning. Sometimes late at night, I hear a faint scratching sound outside, and my heart races, taking me back to when the Midnight Caller almost crossed the threshold into my life. That experience is a haunting reminder of how fragile safety can be. Story 2. The Family Secret. Growing up in Boston, my family's history fascinated me, especially the tales spun by my grandmother. But one story haunted me: the mystery of my great-uncle Vincent, a reclusive artist rumored to be involved in dark deeds. He disappeared in 1985, and whispers of his sinister past still echoed through our family. In 1995, as a curious teenager, I decided to explore his old home. It stood at the end of a narrow street. Stepping inside, dust danced in the dim light as I wandered through cluttered rooms filled with Vincent's unsettling paintings. My heart raced when I found a locked room. With a hairpin, I managed to open it, revealing a gallery of Vincent's most disturbing work. In the center stood a half-finished portrait of a woman who looked eerily like me. Her smile was sinister. As I stared, an unsettling feeling crept over me, and I felt a presence lurking behind me. It was my younger brother, Jason. "You shouldn't be here, Sarah," he whispered, his eyes wide with fear. That night, I couldn't shake the image of the portrait from my mind. Determined to learn more about Vincent, I started researching his past. I uncovered unsettling stories of women who had gone missing, all linked to his name. Weeks later, I returned to the house with Jason, flashlight in hand. As we stepped into the locked room again, Jason gasped as he recognized the portrait. "Why does she look like you?" he asked, fear evident in his voice. "I don't know," I said, my heart pounding, and the door slammed shut behind us, trapping us inside. A chilling whisper filled the air. "Finish it." With trembling hands, I picked up a brush and began to paint. As I added the final strokes, abruptly the door flew open, and we bolted from the house, gasping for fresh air. In the days that followed, I shared my experience with my family. They warned me to never return to that house. to leave the past buried. But the chilling memories of that night in Boston linger on. Story 3. The Gravedigger. In high school, I had a part-time job as a groundskeeper at a local cemetery in San Antonio. It was an eerie place, especially after dark. As I was finishing up, I noticed a figure in the distance, shoveling dirt near an unmarked grave. At first, I thought it was another groundskeeper. The moonlight illuminated a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes staring into the grave. Chills ran down my spine. "Hey, do you need help?" I called out, my voice shaky. The figure slowly turned to me, and a chilling grin spread across its face. "Not yet," it whispered before returning to its work. My heart racing. I rushed to finish my tasks and left the cemetery, but I couldn't shake the image of that gravedigger from my mind. The next day, I decided to investigate. I asked my boss about the figure, but he just shrugged it off. Determined to find answers, I returned to the cemetery after dark with my flashlight. As I walked among the headstones, I felt a heaviness in the air. Suddenly, I heard the sound of shoveling again. "Who are you?" I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. The gravedigger paused and turned, locking eyes with me. "You shouldn't be here," it hissed, the voice more menacing than before. In that moment, I knew I needed to leave. I turned to run, the laughter following me like a haunting melody. I never returned to the cemetery after that night. The memory of the gravedigger haunted my thoughts, and I often wondered if I had stumbled upon something more sinister. Years later, I learned about a series of unsolved disappearances in the area, all linked to the cemetery. Locals believed the gravedigger was a spirit trapped between worlds, still digging graves for victims unknown. Sometimes, late at night, I hear whispers in the wind, and I can't help but wonder if the gravedigger is still searching for a way to finish his work. Story 4. The Happy Face Killer. In the late 1980s, Oregon was haunted by a chilling figure known as the Happy Face Killer, who claimed the lives of several women. As a teenager, I lived in a small town not far from where the murders occurred. The news of the killings spread like wildfire, and a cloud of fear settled over our community. One summer evening, my friends and I decided to investigate the abandoned farmhouse where one of the victims was last seen. We thought it would be a fun adventure. Armed with flashlights, we approached the creaky old house, its windows shattered and doors hanging off their hinges. As we stepped inside, the air felt thick and oppressive. "This place is creepy," my friend Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. We laughed nervously, trying to shake off the fear. A shiver run down my spine. "Guys, we should leave," I said, urgency creeping into my voice. Just then, we heard a loud crash from the back of the house, followed by an eerie silence. "What was that?" Sarah gasped, her eyes wide with fear, and we ventured toward the sound. As we reached the back room, we found a broken window, shards of glass scattered on the floor. It felt as if the house itself was alive, urging us to leave. Suddenly, the radio blared, and a loud laugh echoed through the room, chilling us to the bone. "You'll never leave," it taunted, the voice echoing in the darkness. Once we reached the safety of the street, we stopped to catch our breath. "Did that just happen?" Sarah asked, still trembling. I nodded, my heart pounding. We decided to report our experience to the local authorities, but they dismissed our story as a teenage prank. To this day, I avoid that farmhouse and the dark memories associated with it. Story 5. The I-5 Killer. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Washington state was gripped by terror as a serial killer known as the I-5 Killer claimed the lives of several young women. I was just a child back then, but the chilling stories of his brutality seeped into our small town, leaving a shadow of fear that lingered for years. One rainy evening, I was on a long car trip with my parents along Interstate 5. The rain pelted the windshield, making it difficult to see, and the headlights flickered through the heavy mist. I was in the back seat, feeling drowsy, when my mother suddenly gasped. "Look out!" she shouted. My dad slammed on the brakes as a figure appeared on the side of the road. It was a woman, drenched and disheveled, waving frantically for help. My heart raced. "What if it's a trap?" she whispered. As the woman approached, I could see the desperation in her eyes. "Please, I need help," she cried, her voice trembling. "My car broke down, and I'm scared." In that moment of tension, I noticed something in her hand, A glint of metal. My heart dropped. It was a knife. That night I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes fear can save you, and trusting your instincts is crucial. Years later, I learned about the I-5 killer's capture and the horrors he inflicted on his victims. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe to our channel for more creepy stories. Which of these stories gave you a chilling experience? Let us know. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are real.